And we still have some really interesting juice that is coming in this webinar. So I
Yep.
mostly know how to make healthy choices, but I fall back into old habits. Why? The first option is because of my phone. All right, well, that's clearly sort of not true, but because of my work stress, 43%. Because I put myself last, 29%, and because I lose track of time is 29%. So clearly, work stress seems to be a big issue for many people. So, all right, well, I'm going to now stop sharing because that has given us a little bit of an idea about stress. And that is really a mindset issue. And for that very reason, we have to get somebody who can address some issues around mindset. So, Tash, I'm going to hand it over to you now.
We certainly
Please.
we certainly do need somebody to help us with this, and we have Monique Davey. Monique is a master wellness and habits coach dedicated to helping individuals break free from limiting mental patterns to become resilient, empowered individuals living their best lives, which sounds amazing. And yeah, I'm here for that. With a background as a former teacher and counselor and expertise um, in mental health, NLP, and hypnotherapy, Monique brings a wealth of knowledge and experience to supporting lasting transformation. So take it away for us,
Beautiful.
Monique.
Hi,
Welcome,
everyone.
Monique.
Thank you so much for that introduction. That's great. So I'm going to dive straight in. I think that way we can still have some time for Q&A at the end of this. So I wanted to just give you my top 5 tips for being able to change your mindset and being able to create that space for you to look at your habits. What is it that you want to do and how can you get there? So I'm really going to start this question by saying, is health a hobby or a habit? So a lot of people will say, I'm going to be healthy, I'm going to do all the right things, and then it falls by the wayside and it just turns into a little bit of a hobby. I'll go and listen to something, I'll read a book, I will try something for a little while, and then it just sort of falls away. So what I want to do this evening is give you some really great tools where you can just say, you know what, if I can just change 1, 2, 3 things and really stick to it, how can I build on from there? So the first thing I'm going to start with is your environment. So your environment is probably the biggest game changer for anybody. So you heard that Aidan said, you know, if you have your runners close by the door, you have got them ready to go as soon as you walk out. So I'm going to talk about just that environment. What could you change today? So I want you to perhaps choose one of the following and see where you can make a difference. So I'm going to start with the first one, which is the pantry. So if you walk into the pantry and it looks like all packaged food and there are Tim Tams, etc., what can you do in the pantry to make it look different? It's just one small environment, but it can make a huge difference. Or instead, it might be the fridge. What's sitting in the fridge that shouldn't be there? Can you spend a couple of hours going through the fridge, discarding the things that shouldn't be there and thinking about the things that should be? Or is it exercise? Should you have your shoes near the door? So I have my shoes near the door, I have my sunscreen, and I have my hat ready to go whenever I get the urge that I want to go out for a walk. It could be that you want to create a space for meditation. So have you got a corner that is just exclusively yours? Have you got some cushions that you can put around in a nice, comfortable chair, a candle that you can put on, some music? So choose one of those things. If there's anything you can do, just choose one of those things. Choose the pantry, the fridge, exercise, or meditation. If you're really gung-ho and you've got holidays coming up, you might decide, I'm going to change the whole house. I really want to overhaul everything. But choose an environment. That's the first thing. So we'll go on to the next slide. The next slide is about maintaining those good habits. So this takes a little bit more time in order to think. So when I work with people, I really push their buttons until we get down to the nitty-gritty of what drives them. So for a lot of people, if they've got young kids, they will say to me, you know what, I don't want them to end up the way I am feeling right now. I want them to have good habits. So we talk about, well, what are those habits that you do need to change? So their drivers become their children. But you might say to me, you know what, my kids are already grown up. That has already flown past. What else is it? So you might look at a driver being, well, maybe somebody in your family, you've seen them suffering because of the choices that they have made in their life, and you don't want to end up where they are. So it might be something that you've seen a generation gone past, and you don't want to end up there. So keep that as your driver. It might be that there's a health concern, and that becomes a driver for you. So sitting down and talking about, or, you know, talk with a friend, a partner about what it is that is really going to get you going. So we'll go on to the next one. And this is the big one. It is discipline. So a lot of people who start on these healthy habits and start their changes, diet, exercise, etc., there is a lack of that self-managed progress. And of course, that's where everybody needs to end up. But if you can't get there straight away, think about an accountability buddy or an accountability fail-safe. So what does that mean? It means that you make a promise somewhere, somehow, to somebody that you're going to do whatever it is you've promised you're going to do. Otherwise, there's a big payout that has to happen. So it might be that you say to your friend, let's go walking on the weekends. And if I miss a weekend because I can't be bothered, I'm going to pay you $500. I'm going to pay you, if I don't show up at the park, I'm going to pay you $500. That is an accountability fail-safe. So having somebody be accountable for you, they would be sitting there thinking, this is going to be great. I can see that they're going to fail. But you're the one who's thinking, you know what, I want to keep that $500. This is my accountability fail-safe. So an accountability buddy is somebody who is going to keep you on track. They don't necessarily have to be the person who walks with you, but they may just text you and just say, hey, how's it going? It may be a friend who's, just somebody who cares about you. That's where your accountability buddy comes in. Better still, be their accountability buddy as well. So they might say to you, you know what, I have this real problem with disorganization. And you say to them, perfect. I'm going to be the person who's going to ask you about your organizing. You're going to be the person who's going to ask me about my mindset. So having that reciprocal relationship is going to strengthen that. So we'll go on to the next one. This is a really good one. And a lot of people who decide that they're going to create a good habit actually do need to break a habit to be able to create that new one. And I'll talk about this in terms of an example. So let's say, for instance, you are the person who loves the chocolate. You've got the Tim Tams in the fridge, or you may have the half empty packet in the pantry. And you decide that, chocolate is the one thing that is your fall down, and you want to be able to move past that. So we talk about break and create. So breaking the habit of eating chocolate, what are we going to create instead? So maybe for the next couple of weeks or months, I'm just going to have some nice small pieces of carrot all chopped up, ready to go. And whenever I think I'm going to just have a piece of chocolate, I divert and I go straight to the fridge and I grab a carrot stick and I eat that. Studies have shown that if you can keep that going until you get to a point where instead of thinking chocolate, you go, you know what, I'm just going to have the carrot, you are more likely for a longer period of time be able to just resist having chocolate. So think about when you want to either create a habit, then break one habit. Or if you want to break a habit, create a habit. So you need to replace that. You need to take one thing out and put something else back in. All right, on to the last slide that I've got, and this is habit stacking. So habit stacking, and this is where Aidan, I think, talked about James Clear. So Atomic Habits is one of the books that if you have not heard of it, it will make a great Christmas gift to yourself. So I've got at the bottom of that slide there, it's by James Clear, and it's actually called Atomic Habits. So when we talk about habit stacking, this is blending a new routine with one of your existing ones. So I worked with a client who, she had been reading Atomic Habits by James Clear, and she had said to me, you know what, it's not related to what we're talking about, but for me, I heard it and I just thought this is an issue a lot of people have. So especially anybody who has got ADHD, who finds that they need to have routines in order to be able to build a good habit. She was telling me that in order to be able to brush her teeth, she ended up having to just brush them in the shower. And the reason was she was good at her routine at going in the shower, but she wasn't good in a routine at brushing her teeth. So combining that habit with the one that was already established enabled her to go through and brush the teeth. But how can you pop this in to your daily routine? Well, I have been told that I need to do more strength training. So what am I thinking? All right, so if I think about what are the things that I do and I do regularly, how can I put in some strength training? Well, what I could do, I've got a set of stairs in the house. I can put some 2-kilogram weights at the bottom of the stairs. And when I get down to the bottom, I can just do a quick set, pop them down, keep on going. And if I do that, every time I get to the bottom of the stairs, I have to do that, then it becomes a habit. And then I can start thinking, now, where can I do that differently? Can I target that exercise instead of having them down at the bottom of the stairs? So habit stacking is an amazing thing to do. The other thing, I'm just going to give a plug for a book that I have been reading, which is a really great one as well. So if you want to have 2 books for Christmas for yourself, the other one is called Indistractable. So it's Indistractable, and this is by Nir Eyal. So Nir and surname Eyal. It's a great book. And I will say that when I work with my clients, whenever they say, I don't have enough time for X, Y, and Z, I then ask the question, do you go on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook? Because if the answer is yes, there are time suckers there that always make you feel a little bit lower than what you did when you started this journey. So they are my big tips. I will also just throw in there that, a clear mind is really good. Slowing down your breathing, taking time out just to center yourself is a great way to start your day. So that's it from me.
Beautiful, beautiful. Monique, I really liked what you said is that, are you actually approaching health as a hobby or is it actually intentional? Are you really focused about it? Because I believe truly that, either you are paying the price of building that discipline now or you're paying the price of disease later on.
100%.
Isn't it? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Tash, questions or either comments from you or any questions from our audience, please?
No, I just really enjoyed that. I thought that was absolutely fantastic, and I can relate to, in my own life and in my own bariatric journey, how I have replaced, those previous habits with new things. And except I didn't have your guidance to know what I was doing, but I kind of did do that. So yay me.
Well, I want you to
Yeah.
keep to that right now, Tash, because we want to hear about it just in a moment. So, yeah,
Fantastic.
I think it is really an emotional journey for so many of us, right? And this event is not just targeted towards bariatric surgical patients. It's anybody who wants to reclaim their health and well-being, and ignoring the mindset, which is where you are making all the choices. If you don't feed your mind with good stuff, there is a physical diet and then there is a mental diet. And I think that's what Monique is talking about. If I'm kind of hearing it and paraphrasing it in a different way, if we ignore that mental diet, we can never be physically or mentally healthy.
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
would actually love to ask you, Monique, what are the books that you loved or have loved reading this year?
Oh, for me, so I do a lot of self-help reading.
Yep.
So there's a book on NLP. I've got it down in my bookshelf. There's a book on NLP for weight loss. So NLP is neuro-linguistic programming. It is a great way to rewire the brain. So part of that is taking out those. When we talk about the brain's program, we talk about the ages from 0 to 7 is when we start to make sense of the world. And you can imagine if you've got children of your own or you've been around kids, they have a really very different way of looking at the world. So something goes wrong and they go, oh, okay, this is why that happened. So this is how I have to behave. And therefore, I'm going to run through with this behavior. Now, they decide that when they're little, but when they're older, they're still running that program and they have no idea why. So NLP, so it's an NLP book for weight loss. It's a great way of undoing those programs and being able to go, okay, I'm going to have fresh eyes now and I'll run with it. So Atomic Habits by James Clear was another great one. I can't.
Beautiful.
And in that, there's a lot of information about weight loss as well. So if people out there are interested in weight loss, he's got some great information. And then this one, which is Indistractable, that's been really good. I can't think straight.
That's okay, Monique. I think
Yeah,
there's
but it's
plenty of
been good.
resources. But I often say that, the way you do one thing is the way you do everything. All right. So I think if you are keeping your environment clean, you will automatically, there is going to be a flow on effect. Now, without further ado, I know we are only 15 minutes away from the clock striking 8:30 when we have to turn off. I'm going to move to our next speaker, who every one of you have been waiting to hear. And that is Tash. And Tash is going to be talking about how to break the cycle of self-sabotage, which is so critical. You may have had surgery, you may have had expensive injections, medications, supplements, but if you don't stop self-sabotaging, everything is a waste, right? So Tash, please, over to you. We want to hear everything that you have
Okay.
to share and pack it up in the next 10 minutes, please, because we want to ask you questions.
No problem. So let's have that first slide up. And I'll just do a really quick little chat. So the journey leading up to and following weight loss surgery, which is what I've had, is one of incredible transformation, not only in our body, but also in how we think, in how we feel, and how we relate to everything and everyone in the world around us. I know this very personally because I have had bariatric surgery. I'm also a wellness advocate and I'm a passionate do-gooder when it comes to people being able to live their best lives. It's just something that I'm really very, very passionate about. I had gastric bypass 6.5 years ago. I had lap band 17 years ago, and I've maintained 100 kilo weight loss from my highest weight. And wow, doesn't that sound great? And yes, it is great. But like all good things that are worthwhile doing, it has not been easy. And what I can say about it is that while the weight came off, I was one of those people that was faced with ongoing struggles around the issue of self-sabotage after my surgery. And it was blindsiding to me because I thought that I was going to have a procedure and it was going to fix me. What I realized is that while they might have made my stomach smaller and my intestines smaller, I still had the same brain. I still had all of the same programming, and my habits had me stuck with self-sabotaging behavior. This came in many forms. I was drawn back to my old habits. I felt unworthy of success. I even resisted making healthy changes that I had really wanted to make. And you know what? I thought I was just intrinsically really broken for a while. So why did all of that happen after I had this procedure to fix myself? I had emotional triggers. So we can have that slide up. I had some emotional triggers, and food was one of those triggers for me when I would be emotional. It was a source of comfort. I had fear of success, and I'm just being very honest here. Achieving weight loss can bring up feelings of guilt. It can bring up feelings of imposter syndrome. Who the heck am I? And I had a genuine fear of being able to maintain the results in the long term. So old habits can try to sneak in. And those thought patterns that happened prior to surgery was something that I had to learn how to shake by adapting my life and employing new tools to be able to do that. And also a thing that I know was very, very profoundly part of my life was a lack of self-compassion. I was extremely cruel to myself, and it is something that that was very ingrained into me. And I know that a lot of people struggle with feelings of guilt and shame, and that fuels that cycle that we can get into. But do not fear. We have the next slide. We can break out of the cycle of self-sabotage. And the first part of doing that for me was recognizing that I was doing it. So I identified that I had this behavior in my life, and I started to look at the triggers and what made me want to revert to those old habits. Were there certain situations or stresses, work, things, just a whole host of things. And I became self-aware. And that self-awareness enabled me to disrupt the cycle. So I suddenly realized, oh my goodness, I'm doing this. I recognize I'm doing this. Then the next point or the next thing was to shift my mindset. After surgery, it's common to expect a physical transformation. We all know that. But the lasting change requires not just that, but a mental shift and an emotional growth as well. And for me, I had to shift from very much a diet culture, diet mentality, and I had to start to align myself with a healthy lifestyle mentality, which involves all of the things that we've been talking about tonight, everything that all of the wonderful speakers have been sharing about. I had to develop different coping mechanisms. So I had to get a handle on those emotional triggers. It's important to develop alternate strategies. So for me, it was, exercise, meditation, journaling, engaging in different habits. And that started to enable me to break that cycle, but I had to be disciplined with it. And one of the things that I like to say is that I learned how to scaffold my life because I was fragile in the early days. And I bought these supports around my life to be able to be there to give me strength while I grew personally. And some of those supports that I brought in around my life were my dietitian, my exercise physiologist, my psychologist, my GP. I brought in my friends, my family, my walking buddies, my dogs. I surrounded myself with a village and also an online community in Bariatric Support Australia, my online friends. And we've just been there for each other to help each other grow. And it's really worked for me. So we have the next slide here. And on this one, it just says empowerment is within reach. And it really and truly is. You're never stuck. We're only ever as stuck as we think we are. And we're only ever as stuck as we are from making that one really amazing decision just to try to change. And we can be a cycle breaker. So I like to I just love this particular type of thought about it stops with me. Those painful things from my past, I have the ability and the agency to be able to make those decisions to change them. So what I personally have done is I set realistic goals and expectations. Not I'm going to lose 100 kilos. I mean, I hoped I was going to do that. But by the time I hit about 50 kilos lost, I realized, hey, that 100 seems really terrifying. I need to break this down. So you break things down into manageable steps and celebrate. Celebrate yourself as you're going along that journey. It's so important to acknowledge the good things that you're doing, not always hoping for the next thing, but be present in that moment and love that moment and give yourself that love as well. And practicing self-compassion is actually the next point. Self-sabotage for me stemmed from feelings of guilt and shame, but practicing self-compassion is the antidote. And we're human. We're going to make mistakes, but it matters how we respond. It matters how we intend to go on and do our lives. We just forgive ourselves, we move on, and that's how we break that cycle. And staying focused on my why, that has been absolutely key for me. Before I had my bariatric surgery, I was actually sitting at my table the night before and I wrote myself a letter about why I was doing it. I wrote myself a letter about how I could hardly reach the table because my tummy was significant, and I was sitting quite far back, and I wrote about all of the things that I wanted to do with my kids and the things that I wanted for myself, and just for my own life. And every time it gets hard, that's something that I go back to. I go back to my why. I go back to wanting to be healthy. I go back to wanting to be able to live well into older age, to be strong and to be able to move and still be able to maintain independence, all of those types of things. And I let those grow big on the inside of me. And my final thoughts on all of this is that breaking the cycle of self-sabotage after weight loss surgery is an ongoing process, and it is achievable. We just have to take small steps, address the emotional, physical, and mental aspects of the journey, and we can free ourselves from the patterns that hold us back and create a healthier and more empowered and fulfilling life. And just remember to keep going. You have got this. And the fact that you would even invest into yourself by being here this evening, that is an amazing start. So well done, you. And I just want to thank you for listening.
Very empowering, Tash. Really good, and I think I truly have so much respect for somebody like you. But I have a question that
Yep.
I'm sure would be crossing many people's mind over here. That Tash, yes, you are there now. You can say that I did this and I did that. But somebody who's actually down in the dumps.
Yep.
All right, somebody who's actually feeling low about themselves, somebody who's not happy with the things the way they are in the house, that like everything seems to be working against them. What is one piece of advice? And everybody knows, yes, eat healthy, good
Yeah.
nutrition, daily move. Everybody knows that, right? But we are emotional beings. Let's be
Yeah.
honest about it. What was one thing that you did when you were in that fragile state, that you made a routine and a commitment that I'm going to practice this every day, come what may? Just one thing.
Okay, so one thing,
Just one thing.
at my very, very lowest,
Yes.
I was in an extremely dark place. And it was very, very bad. And I had this one friend who refused to give up on me. I was not answering my phone. She came and she knocked on my door and refused to stop knocking until I would actually answer the door and go out and have a walk with her. And what I found was, in that exercise, just taking one step in front of the other, it started to change how I felt inside. So every day I started just trying to walk a little bit further. And I don't know what it was, but something just switched on the inside of me where I started to think, you know what? I'm not walking far, I get it, but I could perhaps walk 2 or 3 steps more tomorrow. And then maybe I can do a little bit more the next day. So for me, I guess the key was caring about myself enough and seeing enough worth in myself to think, okay, I can actually do this. I can go out that door and start just caring about my body enough to have a little walk. And
Yeah.
it's cheap, it won't cost you anything. And it's such an empowering feeling to know that each day you're just going a little bit further.
Yeah. It's literally like taking one step at a time, isn't it, into your new life, where you've got to force yourself to do it. And of course, you were lucky that you had this friend who was
I,
like a
I
holy
was.
angel.
I
She was like,
was.
yeah. All right. Well, that's fantastic. And I'm just seeing if there are any, of course, people are sending a lot of virtual claps for you, Tash. It's very empowering, brave on you. And of course, amazing work, and I think this is what I say, that people are moved by real life stories, and I think that is so empowering. Now we're coming to the end of it, guys. I want to thank everybody who's been here. And as a token of thanks, you can scan the QR codes. There is a free mindful eating playbook. Just scan this QR code. Myself and Monique, we teamed together and we wrote it. So if you are not able to get it, don't worry. You can always get it from our store, the website store. We have a free gift from Dr. Lucy Burns, which is free online 7-day course, which is, you can use this code called SUGARFREE on their website, rlmedicine.com/no sugar. Well, I mean, I think, I look at myself sometimes as a little bit of a sweet tooth person. After dinner, I do look for where's the chocolate, and I'm kind of, sometimes I feel guilty about it as well. Never overdone it, but still, and I think I'm certainly going to try this, Lucy. Let me see how I can kind of, just do a bit of a sugar reset myself.
That's what I was going to say, Arun. Maybe you should do it.
I will do it definitely. And Monique has offered a 15-minute discovery session with her, one-on-one session. This is a private session. You can scan this QR code. Thank you, Monique, for this. You can book a time that suits you. It takes you to a Calendly link, and you can take it from there. So everybody who's interested, or anybody who's interested in kind of talking about habit stacking or building something which they can kind of use to clean up their environment and start the journey somewhere, well, you can avail of this offer. Followed by that, now before, there is one more offer which is coming, but I want to get something from you guys that, can you give us some feedback? Now, I want to know, how was the session today? Because we want to run this on a regular basis. And Tash, I'd welcome your input as well. What do you think about it? And we want you to just put in the Q&A chat box, wherever. 1 was everything I expected. 2, too short, too long. I hope you won't say it was too long, but that's okay. We will still accept it. We will cut it down because I think you can tell by now that we love talking. and or too informative or not informative. So, all right, please, can I request, before I give you the last freebie, which is coming, which is also going to be very interesting. Have we got any responses, Tash?
Yes, we do have some. People are just saying that it was great. We've had someone ask for the QR code for the playbook again, please.
Okay, well, we can go back in a moment, but yeah, while you're giving, just remember, we love 1, just in case. Sorry, I'm being a bit blunt about it, but let me quickly get you to take a photo of this QR code, guys, very quickly. And before I take you to the final gift, which is coming. All right. Hopefully you've got the QR code, but don't worry. If you haven't got it, just write to us. We will send it over to you. And we've obviously got the feedback. And the final gift is the gift voucher from BeFit Voucher. Thanks to Kate and thanks to Julia. You can use the code Habits Builder. It is valid till 30th of June, 2025. They've been generous enough to offer this to everybody who is on this webinar. This piece will be trimmed out when we put the recording out. So just, you can take a photo of whatever, whichever way you want to share with it. So with that, I want to thank everybody, every speaker who was here. You were so passionate, the energy that everybody got. Lucy, Julia, Aiden, Monique, and of course, Tash, you were just best. You were just so good, So thank you, everybody. I want to also take this opportunity to thank our sponsors, who were, of course, BeFit and Real Life Medicine. They have been generous enough to offer these gifts, but also Be Healthy and Pace Health, who have been there. I also want to take this opportunity to thank my team, who are the backbone of everything that we do, especially to Bernadine and also my colleagues, And with this, I'm going to leave you with this brief video, which I'm sure you would love watching. These are our stories of transformation. So I'm going to leave you with this video, but thank you, everybody. Thanks once again to all the speakers. And thank you once again to all the attendees who took out time this evening and spent it with us. So watch this video, have fun, and after this, we will be closing this webinar. Thank you again.